Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Forever Cash Life Real Estate Investing Podcast. I'm your host, Jack Bosch, and today we're going to talk about something that is really useful for everyone out there who wants to do real estate. That is how to find the money, private money. We'll get started in just a second.
Welcome to the Forever Cash Life Real Estate Investing Podcast with your hosts, Jack and Michelle Bosch. Together, let's uncover the secrets to building true wealth through real estate and living a purpose-driven life.
All right, so we're back, and I'm super excited to talk about how to find the money, how about private money with our guest, our dear good friend, Jay Connor. Jay, how the heck are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Jack, and so I appreciate so much you inviting me to come and be on the show with you.
Well, you're very welcome. When we last saw each other, which is like a month or two ago, we just chatted. We were both part of a big real estate investing mastermind. We're kind of like the minimum requirement is that you are, if you flip houses or a land or something, that you do at least, I think, like 50 deals or something like that. Otherwise, you can't even get in. Or if you're the private money guy and so on, that you do a certain amount of volume and so on. So it's a high caliber high caliber kind of people in the group. And Jay and I have been in this group for a while, and so I was happy to see you there and catch up. And we said, like, hey, we need to get you on. I need to get you on my show again, because our students, particularly our investors, the land flippers, even though most land flippers do land flips where they do wholesaling with assignments, double closings, assignments, or if anything, they use sometimes transactional funding. They also have the need for cash, particularly on some of the larger deals, like they get a $300,000 deal under contract for $100,000, but that seller wants to close in 30 days. So what do we do? Like, if you don't have the buyer lined up right away, you need some money, and we're going to talk today about that. But first of all, Jay, give us a little bit about your history. Tell us a little bit about you, what you do, who you are, where you're from. I know you play fantastically piano. I picked up after 38 years of not playing piano. My parents let me out at age 11. They let me stop playing piano when I just barely played anything. I picked it back up, and for the last 2 years, I have been taking piano lessons again, and I'm absolutely loving it. But man, you're in a totally different league. You're like amazing. But go ahead, tell us about your story.
Well, thank you so much, Jack. So yeah, I was raised. So my wife, Carol Joy, and I, we live here in Eastern North Carolina. I know the accent would never give that away, I'm sure, but we're here in Eastern North Carolina. And I was raised, Jack, in the mobile home business. Most people call them trailers or manufactured homes or whatever. And so I've been around helping people get a home all their life. And but anyway, most of the consumer finance went away for that product some years ago. So I knew if I ever got out of mobile homes, I wanted to get into single family houses. And I know most of your audience is interested in land and not single family houses. So I just want to go ahead and say up front, whether you need money for land or you need money for houses or you need money for apartments, it's all the same private money. We just structure a little bit differently. So anyway, I knew I wanted to get into single family houses. So from 2003 to 2009, the first 6 years that Carol Joy and I were doing this business, I relied on the local banks and mortgage companies to fund our deals. Hey, Jack, I was so naive. I never heard of creative financing or seller financing or subject to the existing note or wholesaling or any of that stuff my first 6 years. So again, I had relationships with local banks. So in January 2009, Jack, I called up my banker, and I had called him up many times for 6 years. I had 2 deals under contract to purchase, and I found out like that I had lost my lines of credit. They'd been shut down and closed, and I didn't know anything about it. And so I hung up the phone from my banker, and I thought to myself, what in the world am I going to do? I mean, back then in 2009, when I put earnest money down, I couldn't get my earnest money back. And so I called up my friend Jeff, real estate investor, was living in Greensboro, North Carolina at the time. I told Jeff what had happened. I said, what are we going to do? He said, well, there's this thing called private money. I never heard of private money, but I learned about it very fast. And in less than, so I put my private money program together. So here's the first distinction, folks. Private money is you're not going to a lender that's loaning you money out of any kind of institutional money. You put your teacher hat on and do what I did. I started teaching people what private money is, particularly people that have retirement funds. I taught them about self-directed IRAs, and I was able to raise over $2 million in less than 90 days for my real estate deals. So here's the first rider downer. And the first rider downer is it's impossible for you to fail until you quit. and so quitting was not an option for me. And I tell you, I learned about private money. I tell you, Jack, private money has had more of an impact on our real estate investing business than any other strategy or thing I've learned about private money. And so, you know, when you learn how to do it, the money just starts chasing you, because I learned the hard way, when you chase money, it's like the money like eludes you. Best time to get private money is when you don't need it, to tell you the truth.
That is right. That is right. Yes. We have people contacting us weekly. It's like, hey, I want to invest with you guys. I want to invest with you guys. Because we also buy apartment complexes, right? So we have like this list of like 500 people that want to invest with us. Yet at the same time, we currently don't have a deal for them. So what they're like, hey, when is the next deal coming up? So when you don't need the private money, that's when you line it up, so that when you need it, you have it. So that's an appeal right there. If you're listening to this and you're currently doing land deals or house deals, then you're doing wholesales and you're doing assignments and you're doing double closings and things like that, still consider lining up money right now. Start talking. What you really enjoy, what I really loved you saying right now, Jay, is that you just flew over it. You barely even talked about it. You says you developed your education program about it.
Yes.
Now here's the thing. Like when somebody hears it, they say like, oh, you went straight into teaching how to do that and selling courses or something like that. No. What you mean to say is the best way to raise money is by educating the people about how it actually works, so that they can make a decision of like, oh, wow, I want to do that, right? So is that, did I hear that right?
Exactly, because in this way of getting funding, we make the rules. So when I was borrowing money from the banks or institutional lenders, and by the way, this has got nothing to do with hard money. This private money we're talking about, another name for it is relationship money, all right? So we make the rules. We set the interest rate we're going to pay, or if you want to partner on a deal, you decide how much of that deal that you want to give up. Typically, I don't partner on deals. I just pay a straight 8% right now. But you decide on. In fact, in my new book that just came out, I'm going to let your viewers get a free copy of it here at the end of the show. But my new book, Where to Get the Money Now, lays out step by step the different parameters of your program that you need to decide. So, what's the interest rate? How often are you going to pay? In fact, you can structure deals to where you don't even make any payments. You don't pay the private lender any money until you have cashed out on your deal or your piece of land. And then at that time, you pay them what your program pays that you decided to. There's a presentation that I present sometimes. In fact, I'm presenting it later this week. The name of the presentation is How to Raise Money for Your Real Estate Deals Without Asking for Money. And so the reason I have that presentation is that I tell people all the time. So right now I've got about between $7.5 and $8 million that we're just rotating from properties to properties to properties. And people will ask me, Jack, I say, Jay, how did you raise all that money without ever asking for money? And I've already given the answer. I put on my teacher hat and I educate people on what private money is and what self-directed IRAs are. Now that's an actionable item right there, folks.
Right.
You see, me and Carol Joy, we've got 45 private lenders, individuals. These are human beings like us. We got 45 private lenders that are investing with us, loaning their money to us on our deals. Over half of them, Jack, are loaning us money from their retirement accounts. And listen, unless I knew about self-directed IRAs and unless I had a relationship with a self-directed IRA company to introduce these new private lenders to, because they never heard of private money till I taught them. They never heard of self-directed IRAs where they can earn tax-deferred income or tax-free, depending on the type of retirement account, until I told them about it. Well, if I didn't have a relationship with a self-directed IRA company to introduce my people to, I'd be missing out on over half the money.
Right. So let me dive into that for a little bit. I really love, again, I want to dive into that concept. What most people do wrong is if first of all, they start asking for private money when they have a deal and they need it within the next like 10 days, right? That's the wrong way to do it. Now, can you find private money that way? Yes, but you're giving the other party all the leverage in that moment. Because there's like, yeah, you want my money? Here's the terms. Well, these are steep terms. Well, do you want to do the deal or not? Right? Are you going to lose out on the deal or are you going to do the deal? Right? No, if you have people lined up already that are saying like, hey, you know what, Jay, you know what, Steve, you know what, Christina, you know what, Susan, if you ever need money, let me know. What you do is really cool. And I would love to be part of that. Now you got them ready for you, and then you just keep them informed and keep them ready. And then when you have that deal where you need the money, it's like, you know what? I got one. This is exactly what I was talking about. Are you ready? And then they might still say no at that moment, but now if you have 10 lined up, 7 will say yes.
Well, you bring up a good point there, Jack. So I learned this the hard way. In fact, most of my most important lessons I learned the hard way. So
So do I.
Learn from my mistakes. So
until I realized that the faster way to learn is through a coach.
You got that right. I mean, it's like, hey, look, you're going to pay for your education one way or the other.
That's right.
It's going to cost you a whole lot more in the school of hard knocks, and it's going to take a whole lot longer to learn it.
Absolutely.
So get you a coach like Jack and fast pace it. But anyway, as I was saying, putting on your teacher hat. And here's what you just said, Jack, that's so important. I never teach my private lending program, and I tell my students, do the same thing. Never expose people to your private lending program. And as you just said, Jack, talk about a deal that you're needing funded in the same conversation. You already, as you said, Jack, you already sound like you're desperate, even if you're not sounding like you're desperate. It's like you're saying, please fund my deal. So you want to separate those two. So first you want to teach your program, and you don't have to ask them if they want to sign up for the program or not. When I finish my teaching, I say, what kind of questions have you got? I answer their questions, and they're going to tell me how much they got. Is it liquid capital? Is it retirement funds? And I typically tell people before they ask, I'll say, I typically can put your money to work for you within 30 to 60 days. This is what I'll typically tell them. And so they say yes. They tell you how much they got, how much they want to work with. Now, here's the other part of that, Jack, that I've learned to keep you from sounding desperate. So let's say one of my private lenders' name is Steve, and Steve's got a couple $100,000 either in liquid capital or in his retirement account. So he's got it. He is waiting for my phone call, because I told Steve a month ago or whatever, I will put your money to work for you just as soon as possible. Now, what happens and what do you say? What do I say when I now have a deal to put Steve's money to work? I tell you what I don't say. I don't call up Steve and say, hey, Steve, and I give him all these details about the deal, and I ask him, does he want to do the deal? That's the most stupid question in the world that you could ask. Of course Steve wants to do the deal, because he's been waiting for you to call him to put his money to work. And guess what? Here's exactly what I tell my private lender when I've got a deal for them to fund. I call him up. This is a short conversation. I call him up. I say, hey, Steve, I got great news for you. I can now put your money to work for you. And I tell them 4 things about the deal. This is even more than they want to know. You tell them more than this, you sound like you're begging. Steve, I got great news for you. I can now put your money to work for you. I got a house under contract over here in Newport. The after repaired value is $200,000. The funding required is $150,000, and closing is next Thursday, and that's when you need to have your money wired to my closing agent. Boom, I'm done. Now, and so what does Steve do? Okay, so all I got to do is get Steve the wiring instructions. I didn't ask him, did he want to do the deal? Of course he wants to do the deal. The same thing applies in the world of land deals. So you've got a private lender that's got whatever it is, 50,000, 100,000 available to go at any time. It's the same script. You call up your private lender, a little bit of chit chat. I got great news for you. I can now put your money to work for you. I got this land over here in such and such that I'm closing on. I'm only going to need the money for like 90 days or 6 months or whatever your deal is. And you tell them what to do. You tell them that they need to wire their money on such and such a date, and you give the wiring instructions to your lender. So there's none of this asking and Mickey Mouse stuff. It's like they're waiting for your phone call. So
here's the thing I'm taking from that. Yeah. So in the land deal, you basically go, so like, listen, I got this deal. It's worth 300. I got it under contract for 100. I need the money for about 90 to 120 days. And so are you in? They might just ask, okay, and how much do I get in interest rate again? Remember, it's 8%, and you get it paid, accrued at the time that we sell the property. Is that cool? Yeah, that's good. Okay, so here, I'll send you the wiring instructions. Now, the thing here is what makes the difference, and I had to learn that, and I bet you had to learn that, is the confidence in which you bring this across.
Yes.
If you start going, I got this deal, but, I don't know. You remember me? We talked a month ago. I got this. So I think it's worth 300 and 100. That's a great deal, right? If you start going about it that way, they will be like, whoa, you're not sure? What are you talking about? You're not confident. You're using you want my money and you're not sure? Let me stay away from that as far as I can.
Yeah.
So it really is a confidence thing. And with confidence comes like what Jay just showed, what you just explained, the attitude that you had about it, the fact that you only share 3 or 4 facts about the deal comes from a place of, hey, of course it's a good deal.
Or I wouldn't be doing it.
Why would I otherwise do it? Why would I otherwise call you? Right? Now, if they have other questions, they'll ask you the questions. You answer those confidently. But the first thing is like, you need to believe that it's a good deal. You need to know it's a good deal. You need to be confident that you'll sell that deal quickly. And then you go in and, hey, here's the deal. It's the opportunity of a lifetime. Like, you're the one missing out if you don't come into that deal. It's kind of like what you need to pour out of your pore, what needs to come out of your pores, right? You don't say that. You're not arrogant about it, but you go about it that way. Is that right? Absolutely.
And as you just said, Jack, if you don't believe in the deal or you're not 100% in on the deal, then they're going to pick up on that. And here's another reason why I don't ask them if they want to do the deal. If I ask them if they want to do the deal, I just planted a seed in their mind that, well, maybe there's a reason I shouldn't do the deal.
That's true. That's a good point too. Yeah.
So anyway, it's all about, as you just said, positioning, the level of confidence. And I can tell you, after you got a private lender and you all do your first deal together, I can tell you after the first or second deal, you know what they want to know? 2 things: how much and when do you need it?
That's right. After, especially as you build up a track record and then people in that. But let's go back to the biggest hurdle that I think people have when talking about that, and that is they don't know how to even start the conversation about it with anyone out there. So where do you find your private lenders? And how do you even pick up the conversation. I mean, you could go invite them to a luncheon and say like, well, you want to talk about stuff. We have done that when we wanted to do our apartment complex. The very first time we raised money for an apartment complex, we didn't know what to do. So we just reached people. We paid them for dinner. And guess what? Almost nobody invested because it was, I mean, some people did, but few did because it was too much of a staged event. It wasn't natural enough, right? So how does, and plus somebody that doesn't have the $20,000 or $15,000 per small land deal can't go out and pay a whole bunch of people dinner. So how do you go about even raising the spark, like raising the antennas with the people around you about that?
Good question. So there are three categories of where to find these individuals. The first category is your own connections, right? Your own contacts. So we call that the warm market, right? So that's one category. Second category is what I call your expanded warm market. You know, Jack, sometimes my students will say, well, Jay, ain't no need of me talking to my warm market. All my people are broke. None of my people's got any money. Well, to begin with, I don't believe them. But secondly, they just don't know how to approach it. So anyway, you got your current contacts. So then I teach how to expand your warm market and start networking. So networking is a huge part of raising a lot of more additional capital after you've worked through your own contacts. How do you do that? Well, you get involved in the community. I know we still got COVID going on, but there's the Rotary Club. There's any of your social groups, your church, if you're in church, your church groups, Business Networking International has given me a lot of private money because of the relationships. So you expand your warm market. The third category are existing private lenders, individuals that are already loaning money out. So let's just start with the first category, which is really, really easy. And that is your own contacts. Well, there's 5 steps that I put together that I still do today. I still train my students. First of all is make your list. So how do you make your list? Well, my book is going to teach you how to make your list, but let me go ahead and give you just a quick overview. I want to segment people I know, right? So first, I want to make my list of retired people or people that are getting ready to retire, say this year or whatever. And I'm all leading up to like an educational thing. So I make my list of retired people. And then I've got 2 different approaches. I've got what's called the direct approach, and then I have what's called the indirect approach. Now you can talk with these people one-on-one, or with COVID going on, you can have Zoom parties and actually have an educational event on Zoom. But let's start out with the way I did it on one-on-one. So I made my list right after my banker, shut down my line of credit back in 2009. Well, one of the gentlemen on my list, his name was Wayne. Wayne has now since passed away, but Wayne and his wife were one of my very first private lenders. And here's how it came about. It was on a Wednesday night at church, at Bible study. I walked up to Wayne and I said, Wayne, I got something I want to talk to you about confidentially. Can we meet for a few minutes after church? He said, sure. So we have Bible study, an hour goes by. We get together after church, we go down to the nursery. And here's what I said to Wayne. This is the indirect approach. This is not the direct approach. Indirect approach. I said to Wayne, Wayne, you know everybody in this town. You've been in business for yourself for 50 years. He was the Zenith television dealer. Now, that really dates me. That's prior to Walmart. I said, Wayne, you put a television in everybody's house here in Carteret County. You're involved in the Rotary Club. And Wayne, I need your help. That's a very important phrase right there. Wayne, I need your help. I said, you see, I now am opening up my real estate investing business by referral only. And I'm now paying insanely high rates of return safely and securely to people that want to invest with us. So when you run across somebody, Wayne, that's complaining about certificate of deposit rates, or they're complaining about the volatility of the stock market, would you refer them to me and I can tell them about my program? Well, what do you think Wayne said?
Well, wait a second. Let me know. What is this all about? I want to know about that.
So I asked Wayne for help. I told him how I needed his help. I'm just asking him to spread the word. Well, I knew Wayne was loaded to start with, right? So that's what Wayne does. Wayne says, well, now, Brother Jay, what you got in mind? And he said, what kind of interest rate are you looking to pay? And I said, well, it depends on the deal. I said, what sounds high to you? Now, back in 2009, CDs actually were paying 2.5% or 3%, not like 0.22% today. Right. So anyway, he says, well, we're not making much money in our certificates of deposit. He says, I don't know, maybe 6% sounds high. I said, well, Wayne, I can't pay you 6%, but I can pay you 8%. And he said, put me down for $250,000. Now, I just condensed a 20-minute conversation into about 2 minutes, but I just asked for him to spread the word. Now, and the direct approach is what it sounds like. I could have called up Wayne, I could have had a little chit chat, and I could have had the direct approach, and I could have said, Wayne, as you may know, I'm investing in real estate these days. I'm taking advantage of the foreclosure tsunami that's getting ready to happen. And I'm now opening up my real estate investing business to people I know and trust. But my program that I have is by referral only, and it may be for you, it may not be for you. But unless you answer yes to the following question, Wayne, there's no need for me to give you any more information. And that question is, do you have investment capital or retirement funds not paying you a high rate of return safely and securely? And then I do something. I shut up and let Wayne answer the question. So we call that the magic question.
Right.
Investment capital, retirement funds not paying you a high rate of return safely and securely. Now, if Wayne answers no, I know he's broke, because 0.22% is like no money in return. If he says yes, then I let the tools do the work. I've got a 16-minute audio that we send out to people that gives them an overview of private money, introduces them to the idea. Then that leads to a one-on-one appointment where I actually teach the private lending program to the prospective private lender. They give us a verbal pledge and we put their money to work. But as I said, I really like the indirect approach.
I like that too. And I actually want to jump in an indirect approach, and then we need to probably wrap up soon afterwards. But the indirect approach is really, really cool, because the one thing that you said one thing a second ago or a minute ago, saying that some people come say like, hey, the people I hang out with are all broke. And you said, like, first of all, you don't believe that. I 100% agree with you. Number one, don't believe that people around you are all broke. Now, unless you live, like, I don't know, in the part of town where really everyone is broke or most people are broke, then that might be true. But even there, it might not be true, because there's people that just live very, very modestly and sock away every dime that they possibly have. And they're having a job that has a 401k. Like you talk about the FedEx driver, this is the story of the FedEx driver who put 10 or 20% of his money away every single month and then invested in the FedEx stock. And when he retired, he was worth $35 million, but he lived in the same little house that he always lived. So don't judge a book by its cover. But even better, the networking part in your church, in Bible study, join a local RIA. They're opening up again right now. There's virtual networking sessions where you can talk about what you need, where you can talk about, hey guys, I'm doing this land deal. I'm doing land deals. Here's a deal that I've just done. For example, personally, I'm raising money. I like to talk about deals that I have done, right? Because in the deals that I have done, I'm not asking for money. I'm just showing the proof that the returns are real. Right. So therefore, it's like, hey, here's a deal that we've done. We've done this and that and that, and the investor made that kind of money. Or like, wow, well, how can I get in on that? Is the answer, right, that you get. And right there, you got it. So I love the indirect approach, because the indirect approach allows you to approach people that from all walks of life, at work, at church, at social organizations, and there's really no limit. And there, more than anything, there is no excuse, right? There's the excuse of the direct approach. Well, I don't know anyone, but this is not, but if you can go to a meetup meeting where there's a bunch of people that want to do real estate investing, and you just basically meet them up and like meet up with them and then talk to them. And it's like, what do you do? Well, I do land flips. So it's like, well, why does that work? Well, and then you tell your story of how it works. Like, and I usually have investors that pay for the land, and then I turn around and flip them, and then they get an insane return. Boom, right there, right there. It's almost like a mixture between the same internal. So I can't wait for our audience to hear more about it. So Jay, tell us. You said they would get the book for free. I'm going to hold you up to that, right? How do they get the book for free?
So this is going to give you all the information step by step that you need to plug into this private money. So the URL that you go to, the website to get the book is www.jayconner.com/book offer, BOOKOFFER, book offer. Now, I'm going to be totally transparent, Jack. I'm going to ask your listeners to pay a couple of bucks for the shipping and the handling. So don't anybody get surprised about that. Or you can go to Amazon and pay $20 for it and ship it. But just go to www.jayconner.com. That's with an ER, JAYCONNER.com/book offer, and we'll rush it right out.
All right, wonderful. So that's awesome. So with that said, I mean, that's really, we covered a whole bunch of ground in the last about half hour. So I wanted to thank you for being on the show. Is there any final words that you would like to share with our audience?
Yes, get a coach.
All right. That sounds good.
Get a coach that knows what they're doing. And when it comes to the land business, Jack, you're the man that can help anybody in that land business. So yeah, don't waste a lot of money on making big mistakes. Get somebody to hold you by the hand.
All right, and the same thing for the money raising. Like get the book right now and check out Jay. He's absolutely fantastic. And then look him up also on his piano things. Like he has done some during COVID when everyone was shut down. He did some piano sessions on YouTube. They were absolutely fantastic. So
yeah, Carol Joy and I on Monday evenings at 7:30, we do this thing called Piano Party, and we play Name That Tune. And the Monday night before Christmas, we had 1,800 people show up on Piano Party.
Oh, wow. You do that on YouTube or on Zoom?
We actually do it on my Facebook page, which is just Jay.
Sorry, Facebook. Yeah, of course.
It's on Facebook.
All right, so check it out. It's absolutely fantastic, and I love it. Thank you very much for sharing these really golden nuggets with our audience. And with that said, that concludes another episode of the Forever Cash Life Real Estate Investing Podcast. Give us a 5-star review, give us a thumbs up, share it if you're watching this on YouTube, share it around, put it from YouTube and other places, spread the word so we can reach more people with creative real estate strategies. Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Jack.
All right, okay, bye-bye.
Enjoyed this episode? Then make sure you like, subscribe, and post your comments and questions below the video. We're looking forward to hearing from you.